All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Copilot webinar. We'll be kicking off here in a couple minutes. We're going to wait for some of our stragglers to join on to the webinar, and then we'll kick it off. Excited about the topic we have for you guys. As you guys know, we want to hear where you guys are located and where you guys are from. So if you guys are from anywhere interesting or anywhere boring even, please let us know in the chat. Myself here, my name's Sam Rom, located in Irvine, California, the headquarters of TrustedTech. Very interested to know where you're from. Last time around, I think we had people all the way from Ireland. So hoping we get that kind of diversity and that spread today. We got Georgia in the house. What's up, Kirk?
Let's go, Georgia.
Monroe, North Carolina. We got PA from Berlin. Awesome. Awesome. And the UK representing in the house as well. Tejas, always a good thing. California. I mean, it is the best coast, am I right? We got Buffalo, New York in the house too, and Hampshire in UK, Norway. Awesome, awesome. Canada in the house as well. I love that name, but I don't know if it's a town or a city, but Chicopee, love it, love it. Missouri, awesome. Liverpool. Oh, but based in Dallas. Okay, I got you. Nebraska in the house. Go Huskers. Okay. Hey, Curtis, thanks for joining us.
I saw an Austria in there, Sam.
Huh?
I saw an Austria in there.
We got a really good global spread this year, or excuse me, this webinar. I love to see it. Love to see it. And I think we got a really good representation from the UK too. Great to see that as well. All right. Just a couple more minutes here, guys. I'm going to give it literally about a minute or two as a follow-up question to that. I mean, is anyone on the webinar currently deployed or implemented Copilot today, or are most people just interested in deploying it? Love to hear back from you guys in terms of where you guys are in your AI adoption and digital transformation journey. And that'll help us in the future in terms of future webinars, how to best enable our customers and enable our prospective customers, or enable the folks who just want to hop on to hear a little more. Okay, so we got prototyping, we got piloting. Oh, Veronica's actually using within our org already. We got Joseph, who's interested in exploring it. That's great to hear, great to see. We'll be going over a lot of those things in terms of whether you're thinking about leveraging it, using it today, or even piloting it within the org. All the topics that we'll talk through today, we'll touch on those pieces. Glad we have great subject matter for everybody here. All right, and we got more folks testing, exploring. Oh, we got a full deployment of 600 in the next couple weeks here, Rob. That's awesome. Excuse me if you go by Robert. I do apologize. All right, with that being said, I think it's time to kick this off. Welcome everybody to today's webinar presented by yours truly, TrustedTech, a team of associates here. We are going to be diving and delving deeper into Copilot, not only as a solution, but really what it means to our customers and how to properly leverage it. My name is Samuel Raw, spearheading go-to-market solutions here. I'd like to introduce Heath and a slew of other presenters who are much more knowledgeable and capable than myself. Heath?
Keith Madison, Senior Director of Professional Services. So it's my responsibility to make sure you're getting what you need with the highest level of satisfaction at TrustedTech. Gabe?
Thank you, Keith. Everybody, pleasure to meet you. My name is Gabriel Krevenkoff, but you can just call me Gabe. I'm one of the cloud engineers here on our professional services team at TrustedTech, and I have a specialty in Copilot and Purview deployments. I'll be talking a little bit about the technicals for you guys today. John?
Awesome. Thank you, Gabe. Hi, everyone. I'm John Ho. I'm one of the lead account managers here for the western side of the United States. Pleasure to meet everyone. Good to see some familiar faces in here. Calling you out, Jonathan. But kicking it over to Sam to go over what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. So we got a great agenda for you. really, we're going to talk first about what does modern work look like with Copilot today, right? The future of modern work, if you will. And then we're going to dive into more of the technical prerequisites around what do you need to be ready to properly adopt, implement, and leverage Copilot throughout your organization. What is the importance of data and how do you keep it secure? How do you make sure your data is right so that the right people have access to the right data in the right ways for the right reasons? Right. And then ultimately, one of the biggest pain points that everyone in the market is experiencing today in terms of how do we get our associates properly enabled so they can properly adopt and leverage this technology to then drive maximal ROI for the organization. We'll be closing it out with an offer in terms of our Copilot readiness assessment that we have prepared for you, whether you're a customer or not. And then finally, we'll be ending it with a Q&A session with the folks that just introduced themselves on our panel here today. But without further ado, I'd like to shift gears and dive into the future of work with Copilot and really what that means. John, you step in?
Awesome, Sam. Thank you. Yeah, AI is a tool, guys. You know that. It's like a wrench in your toolbox. It only works if you guys know how to use it properly and in the right applications. But for Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's more than just a solution. It's a partner in work that adapts to your preferences, goals, and context. And it changes how you work and helps you achieve more. Essentially, well, as cheesy as it sounds, it's your Copilot. And Microsoft 365 Copilot works alongside the Microsoft applications you use every day, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and Teams. And today we're going to take a look at how it works. But before we get started, I do want to ask two really brief questions by a show of digital hands. Who here already uses AI in any kind of way on a daily basis? And how many of you are a one-person army who manages IT, finance, HR, etc.? See a lot of hands here. Awesome, awesome. Have a lot of people carrying the company, right? Everyday two-person army. Let's go. Awesome, awesome. Well, let's just dive right into it then. So I'm not sure how many of you guys know this, but Microsoft has already made Copilot Chat generally available for most of your users, right? They might even be using Copilot right now. And you can empower every employee with the AI capabilities by offering the free Copilot Chat as a foundational user experience to those new to AI at work. And for those who are ready to integrate AI in their daily flow of work, Microsoft 365 Copilot will provide a best-in-class AI experience, which includes all the capabilities of Copilot Chat and integration into your modern workflow. So the question is, why use Copilot? And here are 6 reasons why Microsoft is the partner to start your AI journey. Microsoft's Copilot application offers a single pane of glass that connects with the web, your modern work applications, and business data. And Copilot is designed to be integrated in your day-to-day tools such as Teams, Word, Outlook, with new in and upcoming features in personalization and voice. Copilot Search brings the power of search and AI together to give you a more relevant, context-aware search results, and also connects your work data and dozens of applications so you can quickly find what you need. Copilot is also your window into agents. So it's essentially your new digital workforce. That includes, but it's not limited to, researcher and analyst, 2 of the first in kind of advanced reasoning agents for work. Researcher helps you tackle complex, multi-step research, delivering deeper, more complete findings, while Analyst is built on OpenAI's O3 Mini reasoning model and optimized to do advanced data analysis at work, including when to use and how to use Python. Researcher and Analyst might not be the ones you need, right? Microsoft also gives you the tools to build your own agents through Copilot Studio. And lastly, and probably the most important part, Copilot inherits Microsoft's 365 security, permissions, policies, and admin control. There's also built-in data governance with advanced enterprise data protection, and all of this is made possible with Microsoft's guidelines for responsible AI. So, as we see here, businesses across the industries are using Copilot and agents to be more productive, more creative, save time, and save money as well. And about 70% of the Fortune 500 companies are already integrating Copilot in their day-to-day. For example, Dow is integrating Copilot agents to help automate their shipping invoice processes, which leads to time saved in processing and millions of dollars saved in their first year of using Copilot. And Amgen is utilizing Copilot 365 for over 20,000 users to help accelerate workflows to ultimately find the next life-saving cure. Now, I want to pass it off to Gabe to dive a little bit more into the technical aspects of Copilot. Gabe?
Thanks, John. Yeah, so I want to quickly go over what kind of capabilities we have access to with an M365 Copilot deployment. So naturally, first we have Copilot Chat. You have the free version, which is available organization-wide to all your users as just a handy Copilot helper. You can ask it simple questions and talk to it about what you might be working on. Now, there is a difference here between the licensed version, of course, where the licensed version allows you to query organizational data all across SharePoint and OneDrive and so on. Next, of course, is the bread and butter. The M365 app integration, where it touches into Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, Word. All these apps have some functionality of Copilot, where not only do you have a pane on the side where you're able to query it and talk to it as you work, but oftentimes there's actions you can take inside those documents or whatever workflow you're in. For example, in Excel, one of my favorite features is the Copilot function that helps you generate Excel functions for your worksheets. It's really cool. For my IT administrators out there, Copilot Studio and Agents is where you're able to build your own Copilot agent, of course, and control its behavior. You can connect it to, I believe it's over 80 different third-party connectors, and you can really fine-grain its functionalities, and including you can extend it into something like Power Automate. It's really, really awesome, and I spend a lot of time in it. Naturally, of course, though, we also have dashboards available to us for adoption and measurement. We're able to track things like who's using Copilot overall, the kinds of prompts that they're sending, and much more analytics available to us to track and see if this is really working for our organization or if we need to deploy more training. So next, let's go ahead and go over to the next slide where we talk about some misconceptions. All of these are very common, but I want to focus on number 1 and 5 with you guys today. Number 1, I can enable Copilot out of the box with no setup. This is technically true. You can totally buy a license right now and you can use it. But every organization has sensitive information. When you have Copilot licensed, you have a powerful tool that allows you to ask and query information organization-wide. That includes sensitive information. And that is going to lead into number 5, where people say, hey, I don't, our security, data privacy, that's all not issues for my organization. I'm of the belief that every organization has intrinsic value with their data, be it addresses or simple personal information to sensitive info like social security numbers or credit card numbers. A really good test actually is getting a license for yourself. Run a couple queries and you're going to be shocked that those SharePoint sites that you have access to, somewhere deep inside them is some sensitive information someone placed long ago. Now, of course, there's plenty of other good points on here, such as it's only for IT, which is also false. And then, of course, your users will automatically adopt it perfectly. That's not true either. We do need to train our people to get the most return on interest. And Copilot will replace people? Not quite. It's more of an augment to yourself is the word I use. But we're going to go ahead and let John take over here to talk a little bit about productivity. Oh, I think you might be muted, John.
Sorry
Now
about
it's
that.
officially a Teams meeting.
So the question here is, what are the benefits of Copilot when your tenant is ready for AI deployment? As an account manager here at TrustedTech, I work with many customers and companies spanning across a wide array of industries with endless possibilities for what users need on a day-to-day basis. And Copilot ultimately is an ROI tool for your employees' productivity and time management. And as an ROI tool, it is embedded in your Microsoft 365 applications, providing results within Word or Excel and drawing from org-wide data to help deliver context-aware answers. And for organizations, a recent ROI study found that small businesses can achieve an astronomical 132% to 353% return on investment over 3 years by deploying Copilot. And this can be done by automating mundane work, such as email summarizations, meeting highlights, and data search. And also allows the employee to shift their attention to higher impact tasks, such as analysis, creativity, and decision-making. Copilot helps connect calendars, files, chats, and applications across your organization to provide a unified experience with relevant information and suggestions. So what does this mean for your organization overall? Faster content creation, more effective collabs, better data insights to help with decision making, and overall a higher ROI through better resource allocation. So now that we've gotten a better understanding of Copilot in action, let's imagine what this could mean for your business and how to make that vision happen. Licensing, very confusing, right? Let me help you break it down. What are the prerequisites for Copilot? Copilot for Microsoft 365, it is an add-on license that must be purchased on top of a qualifying Microsoft 365 subscription. So eligible base subscriptions include, but not limited to, Microsoft E3s, E5s, Business Standard, Business Premium, Office E3s, E5s. And then for the education customers, there's going to be the Microsoft 365 A3 and A5, as well as the Office 365 A3 and A5. Now, users must have both the qualifying, base qualifying subscription and the Copilot add-on to be able to utilize Copilot in its entirety. However, Copilot is not required for every single user within your tenant. So you can license selectively for high-value roles or essentially departments. So primary mailboxes must also be hosted on Exchange Online for full Copilot integration, and devices must be on supported update channels, so current channels or monthly enterprise channels for Microsoft 365 applications, and some channels such as semi-annual are not supported. Network and app deployment requirements must also be met here. So OneDrive being enabled, Teams being configured, third-party cookies for using Word/Excel online, etc. And if you intend to use Copilot connectors, agents, or build custom workflows via Copilot Studio, there may be some additional licensing and usage costs applied here. Now, if you guys have any additional questions on licensing, Trusted Tech Advisors are here to help you get in the right direction. So feel free to reach out to us. I'm now going to have Gabe speak a little bit more of key configurations and environmental factors.
Alrighty. Thank you for that, John. And hey, thanks for catching the background, guys. There was a little bug earlier, but I'll go ahead and get that fixed after. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys need to get done before you deploy Copilot. Naturally, first, make sure you guys are using the M365 apps. Pretty easy. Make sure you guys are on the current channel or the monthly enterprise channel. And of course, just make sure they're all deployed and fully functioning. Next, let's start thinking about tenant level security, okay? Use Entra ID and ideally be in Exchange Online. These are both absolutely, you have to be using them. Now, you guys might not think that these would apply to your situation, but I want you to take a look at your conditional access in Entra ID. I want you to take a look at your SharePoint sharing settings. And if you're not familiar with it, I want you to start looking into Purview. Now, again, these might not seem at first prerequisites, but your identity is the #1 access into your organization's information. Imagine a compromise of an account that has a Copilot license. That attacker can now access your organization's data very easily. So it's important that we take the necessary measures to be secure at our tenant level. Alongside that, make sure you're using OneDrive so people can, of course, query their own files. And critically, for my favorite feature, make sure Teams meeting recording and transcription is enabled at the tenant level for meeting recap. The Copilot notes from recorded meetings is so good, and it's worth its weight in gold. Or you get the idea. And then, of course, finally, let's start putting some champion users together, right? Create a controlled pilot group, maybe one person in each department or a small inner group that you deploy these licenses to, and you meet with them and begin to train them. By establishing these champions, as I call them, you're able to have people handle the frontline questions on Copilot, and it kind of happens in a cascading effect where people are training other people for you. But let's go ahead and get back to the next slide, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the technicals. So strap in. First, I want you to understand that Copilot is going to respect your roles, right? And what I mean by that, there's plenty of different areas where roles are used, of course, but I want you to think about the SharePoint sites you have access to, for example, okay? Copilot is going to respect what you have access to and what you don't. Pretty simple stuff there. So make sure you guys set up groups in SharePoint for permissions at 2 sites. And if you can, make it dynamic so it's automated. Next, data governance and sensitivity controls. If you've never heard of Microsoft Purview before, after this assessment, I want you to go look it up. This is where we're going to be doing data governance and what we call labeling of files with sensitivity labels. The short of it is we deploy labels of different sensitivity labels and deploy access to these labels for our users. Instead of protecting at the site level, as we're all used to with access control list, we're now protecting at the data level. By labeling files, no matter where that file goes, it has an access control list tied to it. It is absolutely critical because Copilot, of course, respects these permissions on these labels. Next, of course, I mentioned it already, but the tenant configuration is a must. That's a big part of our M365 assessments, is not only making sure you're fine on the data governance front, but that your identity and your devices and all of those other extra pieces are in place. For example, that touch on device compliance is great too. We could even enforce it so that you have to be using a work machine to be using these resources. Really, really great stuff. And then, of course, finally, I already touched on it, but I want to reinforce, start with a Copilot pilot group, okay? It's okay, in my opinion, for your adoption's sake, start with this instead of a huge organization-wide rollout of everyone just getting the licenses. You're going to be able to gradually roll out, and you're going to have really trained up users by the end of the final group you get to. Okay, let's go ahead and move on a little bit further into some more technicals. We're going to talk about the data foundations. Okay, so from here, let's talk a little bit about data, right? So your data, you might not think it, but it can become unhealthy over time. I want you to think about all those revisions of that Excel document you got hanging around, or those copies of Word documents that we all know and love. I want you to think about if your guys' SharePoint sites or your OneDrive personal accounts have a bunch of old data. We want accurate data, right? So let's start with that. Next, of course, is structure. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on the next slide, but think about who has access to what at this given moment. And let's also think about site architecture for something like SharePoint. And you'll notice, by the way, that I mentioned SharePoint a lot. It is absolutely a great solution for a centralized data store organization-wide, besides the collaborative benefits, but it really works well with Copilot as a great data source that you can keep up to date. Next, data readiness is not optional. I hate to say it, but deploying Copilot just as is, it's just an inherent risk. Every organization has data that maybe not all people should have access to. Think about your HR files, your financial files, leadership files. Again, it could be in one of those big intranet sites that you have. And then, of course, poor foundations increase risk as well as noise. A lot of our recent Copilot deployments, in these initial calls, we have people test out what they have access to, and we've gotten some pretty great results in that initial discovery of, oh, wow, I was able to find some really, really sensitive info very quickly because I didn't have data governance in place. So there's a lot of things to take care of, but we're here to help you. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. And it's a lot, but I'm going to give you the skinny of it. So I'm going to focus a lot on SharePoint here. I want you to think about site architecture. If you right now have a single SharePoint site organization-wide that holds all your files, it might make a Copilot deployment a little bit more complex. According to best practices, and SharePoint's one of the products I love the most, you should ideally have your sites split up into different departments or split up by department, business function, projects, etc., with a good naming scheme. Okay? Not only does Copilot respect your site membership, but this is going to help you pull apart sensitive information into different sites. I want you to think about a finance department. Maybe the finance department has a confidential site and it has a regular site for most of the people, while the confidential is for the high up executives, right? By allowing that, we're able to easily separate our data and have Copilot respect it. Now, I touch on it on the left-hand side, optimize search and navigation. The hubs in SharePoint are a very, very critical piece to this deployment as well. You're probably thinking, well, what if I deploy a bunch of sites? How are people going to get around? SharePoint hub sites solve that. Not only do we align to data governance and SharePoint best practices, but we create a hub site where all your sites are connected to, and it acts as a centralized portal for your users to get around, right? We can have it automatically show what they have access to, for example, and it's really, really, really great. It's one of my favorite features, especially in a mature organization. And then right below it, it's also another piece in Purview is lifecycle and retention. Okay. Now Purview is a big product, but it has sub-products in there. And one of them allows you to control the life cycle of things like data in your SharePoint sites, or even just organization-wide in things like email or OneDrive. I want you to think about if your organization quickly has data that becomes out of date. We want to circulate that data out of Copilot's purview, right? So I want you to consider Purview really on the top of your mind for a Copilot deployment. If you follow a lot of the things that I've talked about, you're going to end up with a very context-aware Copilot, okay? In my testing with a properly set up environment, it really feels like, wow, it just saved me like 20 minutes of searching for this, this, and that, or it summarizes a lot of things. It can really, really be an amazing augment and save you tons of time. But next, I want to move a little bit further onto the next slide here. And I want to touch on topics that a lot of executives would come up to me with during these discussions. So first, it's not mentioned here, but I want to mention that Copilot does not train on your organization's data. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Microsoft was the first real AI solution in the enterprise space that proudly said, we do not train on your data. It always comes up. Next, Microsoft 365 Copilot adheres to a lot of compliance frameworks like GDPR, ISO 27001, HIPAA, etc. All of these things are something we can configure in Purview. For example, we can detect data by a lot of these compliance types by default. Microsoft has a bunch of selectors that you can deploy to detect if you have data that fits those compliance standards. Naturally, of course, it supports regional data boundaries and multi-geo capabilities to keep data where it needs to be kept. And of course, Purview also has audit logs and the e-discovery tool to track for things like prompts and responses and how our end users are interacting with Copilot. Okay? And of course, compliance requires the right licensing, etc. It's a lot more than just simply enabling the feature. We need to make sure we are in compliance with Microsoft standards. Now, before I hand it off to Heath, I just want to go over one last thing. I want you to think about labeling your data. Every organization has intrinsic value and their data stores are critical. Label your data through Microsoft Purview, and Copilot will respect that label structure. Of course, Microsoft Purview also provides other things like data loss prevention. When we label data, you guys also get some really great features like being able to stop people from emailing themselves to their personal email, labeled data, right? So there's a lot of benefits to doing a data governance project. And of course, plenty of auditing. Sensitivity labels that I've mentioned up until now also offer a lot of really great features. And one of the best ones is really enforcing encryption on the files itself. We can do a lot more than that. We can have watermarks going across data when you open it, for example. The good thing about a Copilot deployment, I always tell people, is that you get a lot of side benefits that maybe aren't related to Copilot, but just heighten your organization to a new standard. You are then a really great and secure organization that matters, that handles its data properly. Keith, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about responsibility.
The key to responsibility that I just want to bring in is it's all about kind of that oversight you need. You need to understand what's going on, who's using it, how they're using it, monitor that, and make sure they understand the risks of what they're doing. So Microsoft has their responsible AI usage guidelines. You can use those. But ultimately, if you leave it uncontrolled, Copilot and any AI tool for that matter has been shown to create a level of risk. And that risk is caused by inaccurate information, where the customers the users take it as face value because it came from AI. It's true. There's always inaccuracies that are at risk. There's biases. AI is proven to show biases as it learns. So by keeping the user, and that's what I say is, and John touched on it, he hit it right that nail on the head, using a different tool reference when he said it's a wrench in your toolbox. The human still needs to be in control of it. And that's kind of the key when it comes to the responsible usage. We have to understand that we are controlling things. I've heard a lot of people talk about concerns with AIs taking their jobs. Well, I see a lot of people trying to hand their jobs to AI. And so it's like, understand, it's just a source of truth. It is not the truth.
Awesome. Heath, Gabe, John, thank you so much for the overview of the importance of data, the foundations needed to be in place to properly leverage AI to its full capacity. But I want to shift gears and start talking about one of the other hurdles that organizations experience beyond the pilot phase when it comes to full-scale implementations. Can you help us understand how and why driving adoption and active adoption of the Copilot solution is so important? John?
Yeah, of course. And AI transformation is not just about the tech behind it, right? It's about the organization's ability and the desire to increase revenue, drive down costs, and most importantly, increase employee well-being, right? And to prepare for that AI transformation, don't just focus on the tech. Also requires that our leaders and people are ready for this change and that they have the right training and the right measure to continuously improve. So with that being said, I do have a question for you guys. You'll see there's a poll appearing on your screen. What challenges, if any, do you anticipate in facing with Copilot adoption? Oh, so may I vote myself. Alrighty, here's the live polls here. It's like training and enablement is in the lead. Data security. Awesome, awesome. Hey, it's good to see that a lot of people here prioritize data security. It's very, very important. We've seen too many times where you're using AI to draw and just giving you a bunch of random answers that you probably shouldn't receive. That's awesome, awesome. I want to keep that poll running here. Feel free to participate if you like. Let's move on to the next slide. So essentially what we've learned over the last 18 months is that it isn't enough to just give Copilot to every user and assume business value will magically happen. It's not a plug and play solution. And what's required is being intentional in identifying specific functions and processes where AI can have the biggest impact, and understanding which department would benefit the most from the workflow optimizations that Copilot can provide. From our customer research, we developed examples spanning functions like finance, service, and sales, and each with their own unique needs where Copilot is helping these teams achieve amazing results. And for every function, there are clear KPIs that your business leaders care about. For example, your customer service team likely measures time to resolution. Your sales team tracks revenue per lead, and your marketing team looks at its lead conversion rate. So that's why Microsoft 365 Copilot is designed to be customizable to meet the unique need of each function. And Copilot goes beyond general productivity with connections to line of business data and applications to automate business processes that deliver measurable business value. And here are a few examples of what Copilot can do to assist your departments on their day-to-day. For those in sales, one of the most important aspects is following up with your customers. And Copilot can keep you on track and help you get the close by placing reminders or automating the follow-up process for you. And if you're a part of the IT team, which I assume is not many of you guys, Copilot can be used to help keep track and summarize the policies you deployed on the Intune Admin Center. It is a phenomenal tool to automate workflows and free up your time to focus on more important tasks at hand. So, do you guys like what Copilot has to offer? If so, let me pass it off to Heath to highlight how TrustedTech can help here.
So with Copilot, we have a Copilot Readiness assessment. And for all of those in attendance at today's session, I wanted to make you the first to be aware of we have an opportunity for you to get a Copilot Readiness assessment at no cost to you. So if you reach out to us, we will sit there and we will assess your environment. We're going to take a look at those data governance issues. We're going to take a look at any security concerns. We're going to make sure you're prepared to really start unlocking those productivity gains while mitigating and minimizing the risk to you. So we're happy to have that conversation with you today, and we can start moving forward to kind of get you ready to embark on your Copilot journey, or take a look at what you're doing already. The assessment can be before you get started, or even once you're kind of starting. We saw a lot of people starting down those piloting paths and everything else. We want to make sure that that's secure and you have a plan in place with our experts. And if we talk, there's a button on the screen that says talk to an expert. If you click on that button, I'm proud to announce to everybody on this call today, we have an opportunity for you to get that at no cost to you. And so if you click on that button, start talking to our resources, we'll get a Copilot assessment scheduled with you, and we'll talk about how that can be no cost.
Awesome. With that being said, please let us know through the Q&A box if you have any questions, any concerns. We'll be answering those here. Otherwise, thank you as always for joining us today. In terms of that Q&A session, Heath, do you want to kick it off? I know we have some technical questions in flight here in the Q&A box.
We'll just go ahead and go through the question. We'll let some folks, we'll let the team answer them as they go. When creating an agent through Copilot Studio, do users that want to interact with that agent require a paid Copilot license?
They do not. So that one is going to be configured as a pay-as-you-go. Okay, so that is something really cool about Copilot Studio is you can create your agents there, link it. You do have to get a bit more manual on choosing the sources of knowledge. It's not like a Copilot license, which automatically detects everything you have access to. It's a little bit more manual, but you deploy it organization-wide to your users. And I believe, don't quote me on the price, but it's like a penny per message. You can do pay-as-you-go, or you can buy a message pack. I think it was 25,000 messages was the price. So there's some flexibility there, which is really cool. But again, it's a lot more manual. You have to add in knowledge sources to that agent. So it's really good for specialized tasks is how I would use Copilot Studio.
And the person we can quote on prices is the person that quotes licensing prices for us, and that's John Ho, if he has anything to add on that.
No, I think Gabe hit it right on the nail of the head there. And if you guys have any questions, additional to that, please let us know. We'll be happy to guide you guys in the right direction here.
Great.
Some pretty good questions here. There's a lot actually.
Yeah, I
I
know.
wish I could answer all of them.
Well, we
Let's
can
see.
get these answers to you post the presentation too if we don't get to them, but we still have 20 minutes. So we figured there'd be a lot of questions, so we kind of planned this with enough time to kind of go through some questions. So for those of us who want to crawl before we walk and just start with a basic generative AI before moving into a full ecosystem, integration to make sure adequate security controls are in place, would the basic Copilot chat be sufficient? Or are there some inherent limitations with that versus the license version?
That one was crawling for, is there inherent? The basic, yeah. So the thing with the basic Copilot chat, and this might be a Microsoft kind of thing on advertising, is the basic Copilot chat that you guys have is not going to access your work resources, automatically organization wide. Now, this person here, Byron, said, just start with a basic generative AI before moving to a full ecosystem. Absolutely. It is still an LLM, right? It's powered by OpenAI, and you can absolutely use Copilot chat unlicensed and use it as a simple LLM that's right there alongside all your info. Just be aware that you're not going to be able to query all the SharePoint sites you have access to, email recap and whatnot. That's a good question though. If your users have never used AI, Copilot Chat, the basic version, is a really good way to get started.
But I would encourage you to have them still log into that chat with their organizational account, because that gives
Absolutely.
you still a maintained level of control over what's going on. We don't want them logging in with their external live account, and then all of a sudden they're putting running corporate documents through it to get it to kind of customize some of the language. And now that information is technically being shared externally from your organization. So still
And
have them log on.
yeah, and another benefit is that that free Copilot chat is also auditable from, those dashboards that I mentioned previously. You can detect what people are doing and even just adoption of Copilot chat from your M365 admin dashboards, as long as they're using their work account.
What is the process for controlling user access to Copilot Studio? Specifically, we need to block certain users from accessing the platform, or at least prevent them from creating new agents.
Yeah, so there is a way. I wish I could give you the exact step-by-step menu options right now off the top of my head, but there is a way to stop people from creating their own agents in Copilot Studio, I believe. If you'd like, I can note down your name and I can get that documentation pulled up for you. I remember this is a pretty common topic at the very beginning with Copilot Studio. Um, I apologize about not being able to have the menu. There's a lot of things to keep track of there. See.
Azure
You know
AI
what?
Foundry, good.
Oh yeah, I was just going to mention a big topic is licensing as well, guys. You know, there are, for example, Purview was one that was mentioned. Business Premium, E3s and E5s are always going to be my recommendation for your standard users to have, right? I personally love Business Premium. I think it's the most bang for your buck. It allows you access to a bunch of products, but most importantly, it allows you to use Purview organization-wide for those labels. Um, there's some add-on licenses for security and whatnot, but just as a baseline, if you guys are using Business Basic or Standard, your features are going to be a little bit limited. So if you guys are on Business Premium, Business E3 or Business E5, and that's important, not the offices. Those are a little bit more legacy, so I don't quite recall, but use those 3 licenses.
Yeah, Gabe, you mentioned it really well, right? Business Premium and is also my recommendation for the easiest way to get started with Copilot and getting really into ensuring that your DLP policies are up and that you guys are good to go. You can also add on an E5 security license to those Business Premium users if you want to enhance your security even further and have it be a little bit more comparable with the Enterprise E5, right? But yes, Microsoft 365 E3s, Microsoft 365 E5s, and Business Premiums are recommended base licenses here.
Absolutely. Then you mentioned AI Foundry, Heath.
Yes, Azure AI Foundry versus Copilot. Foundry seems to be a better fit for supplementing task productivity, and it has a broader scope at what seems like a lower price point. What benefits would you highlight to offset counter that point of view?
So, and that's actually a really good question because lately I have been working in Azure AI Foundry, just in my personal life as well. The skill level is quite a bit higher. Okay, so Azure AI Foundry, naturally it's in Azure. Um, Depending on what, even the simple stuff you want to do, you should be a technical person. You should be familiar with Azure, what resources are and whatnot. Copilot and Copilot Studio are really low code, easy methods to deploy AI organization wide. If you guys have the functionality and capability to do a proper open AI based deployment through AI Foundry or other models that you have access to over there, excellent. But if you guys need something that's very easily human friendly to your organization, low code, Copilot's the way. Now on cost, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of touches on Copilot Studio where you can get pay as you go, right? But Copilot, the license itself, the main feature there again is it's you give someone a license, you have your data governance in place, and you're able to have them go off to the races, right? They can start using it in their M365 product suite. They can start catching up and utilizing things like document summaries, email catch-ups, etc. It really superpowers them. Not to discredit Copilot Studio or Azure AI Foundry published agents, but if you want to empower the individual user, Copilot licenses are pretty darn effective in price, in my opinion.
Well, and the fact that it's integrated across so many of the Microsoft productivity apps out of the box, it's simple for users to use. It's simpler for, getting the value created. So that's where a lot of it comes, is simplicity. And you're paying for that convenience. That's why it is a higher price point, because you're also
Absolutely.
not paying for an Azure AI expert at the same
Yes.
time.
It's
So,
technical. I'll tell you, I've been in that portal for a couple weeks now, and it is technical stuff. Azure AI Foundry is awesome. It's really cool, but again, the ease of use, it kind of trades off, in my opinion, and the complexities.
where are some good online sources for more detailed information about configuring one's tenant to meet the key prerequisite areas as you've explained on the webinar?
I would say TrustedTech.com because I'm an employee here. No, seriously, if if you have licensing with us, if you have a certified support plan, please reach out to us and we can start to talk about that, maybe a short session with an engineer. But of course, I do have to plug our Copilot M365 assessments. But as an engineer, best practices, well, the world's kind of your oyster, right? There's a lot of great blogs online that go over best practices, but I think where you want to point your attention to is getting granular. Are you trying to protect on the identity front, on the data front, the device front? There's no shortage of blogs that go over protecting your Entra ID, deploying conditional access policies and really strengthening. But again, get granular and then search from there. Or if you want a one-stop shop, you can just come to us.
Well, one thing I would add is obviously Microsoft's learn.microsoft.com pages are great sources of information that at least
Yep.
is approved and supported by Microsoft. Much like AI, we all know performing a Google search can provide you, in fact, it has AI in it now, can provide you a lot of information that may or may not be as accurate as it should be. And so if you stick around the Microsoft sites in general, you'll be in a good spot. And since, that kind of information is covered as part of our Copilot readiness assessment, it's kind of like where to find more information and what you need to know. And since, as you heard from the offer today, we have a way that can be delivered at no cost to you. At least give us a call, reach out, and we can see if
Absolutely.
it's something we can help you with.
Absolutely. Those docs are great, but be prepared to read.
Yeah.
There's
And we also have a
there's
team of
there's Reddit threads, there's all kinds of blogs and stuff out there,
Yep.
but that is as approved a source of information as it sounds. Does the free version of Copilot that is included with our M365 M3 licensing include data privacy and data security controls for the organization?
If you're referring to your E3 license, your M365 E3 license, yes, you'll have access to really the main thing I want you guys to take away is, do you have access to sensitivity labels in Purview with your license? Okay. Sensitivity labels is what I want you to take away on the data governance side. that is the majority bread and butter with data governance is we need to label all of our data organization wide, and we need to control who has access to those labeled files, right? So that's really the main function that I want you to guys get into your head. But yes, your E3 license will have sensitivity labels.
I have an expansion, kind of a related question. Is Copilot training on your data if using built-in Copilot with E3 non-Copilot licensed users?
No, Microsoft is never training on your data. And I actually had that come up a little bit ago. It's kind of hard to find, but in all versions of Copilot, Microsoft is not training on your data, including the free version.
So here's one. Maybe you want to answer this one, John. I know you live and breathe licensing. What is the correct license or the correct licenses that we need for making full use of Microsoft Purview sensitivity labeling?
Yeah, so as Gabe mentioned earlier, you can utilize, this premiums, E3s, E5s here, because I think recently they actually integrated the Azure Information Protection and into the full suite of sensitivity labels of Microsoft that's included with your base license. So I'd recommend starting there. If you guys do want to do kind of like a data protection optimization, like a project DLP Purview implementation project, we could definitely help you guys get in the right direction. But usually those would be more along the lines of like E3s plus E5 securities. And that will get you guys pretty secure when it comes to enterprise data management. Right. So Copilot itself, as I previously mentioned, does have SharePoint Advanced Data Management. That's part of its suite once you get the add-on license in there. So it does come with a baseline that you can start configuring to make sure that your data is well protected when your users are using the search function within Copilot.
Thanks, John. Here's a good one. I know this has come up in several of our calls lately, Gabe, too. We have years of user files stored on file servers. Well, we need to move the data to SharePoint to prepare for Copilot.
Yeah, so just to kind of touch on it on another side, you can totally label your data on premises, by the way. That's completely possible through, it takes a little bit of effort. You have to set up a scanner on-prem and whatnot, but you cannot query that data with Copilot, okay? If it's stored in on-premises repositories, right? You can label it, which is great because you can control access to it and whatnot. You can encrypt that data, but it's not going to be queryable by Copilot. And let's see, I'm just looking through some others. Can you create an agent that can query it as a data source? If you're talking about on-premises resources, no, you can't. So agents in Copilot Studio, there's a little tab called Knowledge. And from there, you can add a bunch of different things. You can add individual SharePoint sites, which is, I mentioned it earlier, Copilot agents are great for specialized tasks. You can't just say, use all of SharePoint, because then that would kind of neglect the whole licensing thing. But you can specify specific SharePoint sites that you want to include. And then just to add on, in that knowledge tab, you can input websites and it'll crawl that website and use that as a knowledge source. You can make some really specialized bots in Copilot Studio, man, and you can link them to each other to call on them. It's really, really cool what you can do there.
What about other locations online, like Azure Files, Azure Blob Storage?
For being able to query through Copilot, and I'm going to put a large asterisk, okay? Where there's a will, there's a way. You can totally set up some graph connectors and whatnot that gets, I'm just going to say it just now, it gets technical, okay? You could theoretically have it crawl and query that data, but the standard Copilot license that we're talking about, you're not going to be able to query those data sources. Think things like SharePoint online, OneDrive, Exchange online mailboxes, etc.
Hey, I'm confused. I've seen Copilot agents that have been able to be deployed to users to interact with on Teams and within Copilot chat without a license being configured. Is this a case of license violation, or is it based on the connectors that Copilot would be using that triggers a license requirement?
So things do get a little bit weird where, in the interest of time, I can't go over it all, but you can create agents inside Teams. You can create them inside SharePoint. You can set up these pay-as-you-go agents, right? These are available to your end users. Again, think of it like Copilot Studio, where you can deploy these simple agents that are pay-as-you-go, and they're available to other people. They're not going to have the functionality of Copilot and M365 Copilot license, but you can give them some neat little functions that act in things like a Teams channel, for example. Again, we don't quite have enough time to go over it, but if you want a really fun read, look into SharePoint Copilot agents and Teams Copilot agents. It's pretty cool. You can make some really customized to a single source agents that do a specific task.
All right, we are going to be running out of time shortly. Let's see if we can rapid fire a few of these, and we'll try to send out additional information after. I have users complaining. I like this one. I have users complaining that Copilot AI chat is not as good as ChatGPT or other LLM models. What is your take on this?
I'll agree with you. I believe that Copilot is absolutely a developing product. And this is something I'm going to plug. Go check out the M365 Roadmaps website. It's by Microsoft, and go to the Copilot section. They have so much stuff on the road. I mean, just a little while ago, Copilot didn't have memory, and I believe it deployed. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. In terms of smarts, yeah, it is not going to remember absolutely everything like ChatGPT. Now, it is based on the same models, okay? But things like, for example, Copilot or ChatGPT, when you have no plan or anything, is a little bit more dumb, right? If you have the free Copilot chat, it's not as smart, right, as the main Copilot license. So just, from an engineer perspective, it's not ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a dedicated service. It's really, really a completely different animal, in my opinion. But that's not to put down Copilot. Again, I find the main value with Copilot is integration into your apps and the documents you're working on or the workloads you're working on. Yeah, let's say that's a pretty good way to put it.
All right, I know we are coming up on time. Let me see what else we can find here.
Is Copilot training on your data? Nope, it's not training on your data.
So here's one.
Easy
The free
one.
version of Microsoft Copilot Chat that comes with Business Premium doesn't actually provide the user access to SharePoint document libraries, correct? I just want to
Correct.
make sure they can fit. There you go.
Yep, you need a Copilot license or a Copilot Studio agent deployed that has specific access set as a knowledge source. Let's see. And there was a lot of Q&A questions. Wow.
Yeah.
Wish
We
I could
knew we
answer
needed
all
to
these.
leave plenty of time in this one, I know. Do sensitivity labels work with SQL Server? And if so, what is the granularity, tables, records?
A little bit different than Copilot, but yes, there are purview functions for, I believe, going by row or something like that. It's a little bit more outside my domain. I apologize, but yes, there is some functionality of purview being able to label data inside a SQL database. But again, it's a little bit. I apologize about that. But just for the record, you cannot natively Copilot query a SQL Server database. Just to put that out there.
I know we've been talking a lot about technical things, guys, but in the last 20 seconds here, the chat is a perfect example of, I think, the power of Copilot. For example, right, we saw this Fireflies comment summarizing everything I said throughout this webinar, which really wasn't much, but Firefly thinks I said everything, right? with little things, even from my role in from a go-to-market perspective. Copilot and what it's done for me from a use case example, which is how I use Teams, how we action following up with Teams, and how I send summary notes to all the executives and leaders and even associates that I work with has been hugely valuable. So I think one of the things to call out on top of those things is the accuracy and the reliability that Copilot has for us today, given all the other AI tools that are more, shiny new object that are riddled with sort of issues and flaws, right? So just from a simpleton like myself, I mean, I feel the difference in just using it in terms of how much time I've been able to save, but how I've been able to also follow up succinctly and effectively and drive alignment through it. But with that being said, we are 45 seconds over. As always, thank you, customers, for joining us. Thank you, non-customers, for joining us as well to learn more. We're here to help everybody that joins our webinars, customer or not. So please reach out to us. Take advantage of our offer in terms of your free Copilot readiness assessment, or even take the time to register for the next webinar. We're going to be talking about licensing and virtualization and really what's going on with that VMware environment potentially and how you can take control of it and pull the plug on your dependency. Look forward to speaking with you all then, and have a safe and awesome and joyful Thanksgiving. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.